Hey everybody, it's B here, and today we're talking about something a little different. GOAT format is something that's relatively known in games like Yu-Gi-Oh, where it is an old format that people like to harken back to as the golden age of the game. In other games, it's older formats like Modern, let's say, for Magic the Gathering. For us, a lot of players like to say that the 2.5 format was the GOAT format of the game. I have a little bit of opinions on that one, but I want to give you guys a breakdown of what some would consider the greatest of all time format of the Dragon Ball Super card game. Before we get started, guys, if you guys want to pick up some cards so that you yourselves could play GOAT format with your friends, I have to point you guys over to 3-Man Inc., the best place in Canada to get your DBS sealed and single product guaranteed. And if you want to watch these things, usually I say go on my Twitch, but you guys should check out my Twitch. I stream practically every day now. I will point you guys over to the subscribe button because we're doing the GOAT episode of the history of Dragon Ball releasing tomorrow. So if you guys want to see how decks used to play it out like then, I definitely recommend that you guys go check it out. So as far as Dragon Ball is concerned, what is the GOAT format? Well, it's really simple. It's very early on, which I think is one of the detriments that I find about it. It's the fact that there's not actually that many sets, but it makes sense when you contextualize where Dragon Ball went after heroes and villains had released. So effectively, GOAT encompasses everything before set 3. So we have Galactic Battle, Union Force, Mighty Heroes, and the Dark Demons expansion, as well as any starter decks. There's a draft box in there as well, which is actually relevant because Mecha Frieza is in there. But basically, everything in that is what is included in GOAT format. And GOAT format is effectively a triangle format game. You basically have 3 decks that are the pillars of the format, and then you have everything that lives inside of it. So Cell Chain is at the height of its power and is definitely one of the decks that knocks down any deck that is trying to get a bunch of advantage, whereas it definitely has a better matchup against, let's say, against Crit Vegeta, where it has huge hand advantage early on. It can self-awaken, it can apply a huge amount of pressure, but doesn't have a great way to dump its hand really early on, so that Cell takes advantage of that. However, Vegeta has an advantage over Mecha Frieza by being able to be very aggressive, apply a lot of pressure, and being able to take advantage of the fact that Mecha Frieza is going down in life very quickly, and just generally outpace it in terms of the advantage game, or at least keep up with it while being more aggressive. Then, to really bring around the triangle, we have Mecha Frieza, which has a better matchup against Cell because you got like Bloodlust, which prevents Cell Chain from actually being able to pop off, and just generally speaking, everything that Mecha Frieza can do is very interactive, which makes it very difficult for Cell Chain to be able to take full advantage. Even if you do get the Cell Chain off, your Cell Chain might end up in rest mode, and then if Mecha Frieza plays well, can definitely get the hand back after your initial chain. So generally speaking, this is basically the triangle that keeps the format in check, and everything lives within this triangle. Soul Striker being the predominant 50-50 deck across the board, having, depending on how you're teched out, a good matchup between any of these. And Soul Striker really representing effectively the value engine deck. While there are other decks that saw some success, the format was really held together by this triangle with Soul Striker living in the middle. However, we did see some advantage-based decks do well. Golden Frieza is a deck that isn't blue, although it uses some blue in most of its deck lists, to be able to accrue a lot of advantage and be able to win that way. Blue Trunks is another blue advantage based deck that sees some moderate level of success. So it's not impossible to do well in this format with anything that's not these 4, but you are very much enticed to because these 4 are the pillar of what everything can do, and that really cements itself once Overwhelm comes into the game and people have figured out that blue really wants to be the advantage, awakened using results of training, let's say, and then the other decks are really there to push anything else out. So then the big question is, but why this format? The biggest thing is that after set 3 releases, the game becomes very archetypal and becomes much closer to the type of gameplay that we see today, where you have chains and you have interactions that go into other chains. And basically the game strays much farther away from being a game of advantage. The game of GOAT format really relies on basically the fundamentals of the game. Can you keep a good hand size? Can you use your cards to the fullest? Are you good at comboing? And I'll give that to GOAT format. I will say that GOAT format, if you ever really want to practice your fundamentals of the game, be better at the combo game, be better at getting full use out of your cards, being better at understanding when hand advantage is stronger for one matchup than another, then I highly recommend practicing some games of GOAT, because that is fundamentally what wins and loses you games in this format. However, you do miss out on the explosive gameplay that the archetypal stuff that's introduced from set 3 onwards comes to introduce, and that's kind of where my hitch is. But at the core, it is the purest form of Dragon Ball. And I think that's the biggest thing in terms of what takes it to the golden era that some would consider of Dragon Ball, because it is pure mechanics. It is just nothing but being better at fundamentals of the game, which will take you really, really far. And this is shown by the fact that the topping lists, the top 32s, the top 16s are all, you know, held on to by a lot of the same players. A lot of people, you know, your Marcel Russells, your Peter Katanis, your Eric Hills, and your, like, all that. Like, it is very much held up by a lot of the same players in this era, and a lot of people who still do well today. But it is very much based on the fundamentals of the card game. If we want to look at a couple of deck lists, these are some of the lists that we may roll for during the History of the Dragon Ball episode that's coming out tomorrow. Here we have a blue-green Soul Striker list. Just good advantage, right? You have results of training at 4 because you want to be able to awaken, but you want to stay defensive. You want to stay at a high life total. You got green cards. The Gohan is insane. It was also stupid expensive when it came out. I heard it was like a $50, $75 card depending on when you tried to pick them up. But generally, this is what decks were. Just pure advantage. Your energy boosted Majin Buu is like a blue staple. Like, if you're playing blue, you're playing Buu at like a 4 of, which is absolutely insane because all he is a cantrip. But it just goes to show how much hand advantage absolutely mattered. And then Overrealm really brought it all together when it came out. So we see Time Patrol Trunks and the mysterious Mass Saiyan in like every deck list at this point because they're just so efficient at being board wipes, at being good beaters. So that is really the core of what an advantage based list would look like. Then on this round, we have Mecha Frieza, which plays every color because it can play everything for free. So Monaka, basically just to help yourself awaken. It also draws you a card. It gives your leader double strike if you need it. Cold Bloodlust out of 4 of. Remember when Bloodlust was out of 4 of? And generally just a yellow to help out the rest of the color. And again, you see 4 Majin Buu because it's what decks do. Here we have Cell Chain, and a lot of people were really exploratory with their chain back then. Red, green being a favorite of a lot of topping lists just because it gives you the extra aggression once you Cell Chain your opponent to be able to close out the game. And then finally, we have a Crit Vegeta list. This one being primarily mono blue, but it sides into a red package. And again, 4 energy boosted Buus, everything that gives you as much hand advantage as possible. And this one definitely leaning in on the aggression aspects of the game. And there is a lot of diversity here, right? Like, it's not like every deck plays the same. Every deck plays very differently. Mecha plays very different from Cell Chain, which plays very different from Crit Vegeta, which plays very different from a lot of advantage-based deck like Soul Striker, like Golden Frieza, like Combo Trunks. So there is diversity in gameplay, and you can get that variety based on how you make your build out. It's just not the type of gameplay that I personally lean to when I'm looking to play Dragon Ball. And that's basically the crutch of GOAT format. And kind of why, here's the thing. To me, if I had to pick a GOAT format, I would say it'd be Surge format. I think to me, Surge format was the epitome of interesting archetypes that could do a lot of things, but mixed in with enough generic decks that could do very powerful things, and it was a very skill-intensive format. So it had that explosive gameplay, but still felt like skill mattered in terms of whether you won or lost. But that doesn't take away from what GOAT format is. Like I was saying before, GOAT is the pure format. It is a format where hand advantage is king, and where your skill at a player in terms of your resource economy will take you the furthest. So if it was up to me, I'd say Dragon Ball could easily have like 3 formats. 4 if you include unerrata, unbanned, anything goes format. I think GOAT format could stick around as its pure format of the game where people just want to play like they did back in old school and really just focus on the hand advantage and pure aspect of the game. Totally cool. I think Surge format. Here's the thing. If people are playing GOAT format, I think there's a huge argument to make to be playing Surge format. I think to me, Surge is the epitome of the modern version of the game. So you have GOAT, you have Surge format, and you have Standard. And I think those 3 formats, if people really want to change up the diversity of gameplay, could definitely live together as our quote-unquote eternal formats of the game. I think that would really be awesome, and I think to me, Surge speaks way more to me than GOAT does. But I also came after GOAT format, which probably explains why I have more of a nostalgia for the newer way that the game is played than the older. That said, it doesn't take away from the fact that if you're an expert in GOAT format, you are hands down probably a phenomenal base level Dragon Ball player because of how much GOAT format teaches you. And I have to once again reinforce, guys, that if you guys are really interested in getting better at comboing, at hand advantage, then go ahead and practice some GOAT format because it's a phenomenal format at getting you to be better at that kind of gameplay. With that said, guys, that's pretty much it for today. Let me know, do you guys like GOAT format? Do you guys prefer search format? Are you guys looking for different ways to play Dragon Ball? Let me know in the comments down below. I would love to hear it. And again, guys, if you guys want to see GOAT format being played, we have the history of Dragon Ball Super card game on the channel. All the other episodes are GOAT Light. A lot of the older formats are very similar to what we see in GOAT. And tomorrow we will be releasing the episode in which brings it all together, where we have the expansion set that brings us Overrealm and really cements GOAT as the format that everyone knows and loves today. Subscribe button's in the corner if you guys want to watch that. Like the video if you liked it. Hey, dislike works soon. With that said, I'll catch you guys tomorrow. Ciao.